The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with tension. Representatives from 7 different alien civilizations sat in their designated seats, but nobody was talking about peace anymore. The war had changed everything. Ambassador stood near the back of the chamber, watching the chaos unfold. He was a tall being with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that reflected the flickering lights of the holographic displays. His people were dying. Every day brought news of another colony destroyed, another fleet scattered, another million refugees with nowhere to go. The Empire had started this war 6 months ago. They were a warrior race, bred for conquest, and they showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. Their ships darkened the skies of peaceful worlds. Their soldiers marched through cities and left nothing but ash behind them. Elder, the ancient mediator of the council, raised her 4 arms to call for silence. Her species had lived for thousands of years, and she had seen many conflicts, but even she looked worried now. "The advance continues," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "They have taken 14 systems in the past month alone. The Federation has requested military assistance from the Council." A harsh laugh came from across the room. High Commander, the representative, stood up from his seat. He was massive, covered in dark scales with eyes like burning coals. His presence made the air feel heavy. "They are weak," he said. "They always have been. This war will end when they accept their place beneath us. Any species that helps them will share their fate." Felt anger rise in his chest, but he stayed quiet. Speaking out would accomplish nothing. The other council races were too afraid to act. They were too powerful, too ruthless. Nobody wanted to be next on their list of targets. The session continued for another hour, but nothing was decided. Nothing was ever decided anymore. The council had become a place of empty words and broken promises. After the meeting ended, walked through the curved corridors of the station. His mind was racing, searching for any solution he might have missed. His people needed help. They needed a miracle. He stopped at a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his was burning. His family was hiding in underground shelters, praying for salvation that would never come. Unless he did something impossible. Reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. It was old, covered in strange markings that no translator could read. He had found it in an ancient archive, buried under centuries of forgotten records. A distress beacon from a species that the galaxy had tried to erase from history. The humans. He remembered the old stories. Every child in the galaxy grew up hearing tales of the humans, though most thought they were just myths. 3,000 years ago, a primitive species from a small blue planet had made first contact with the galaxy. They were young, curious, and eager to learn. But the galaxy had not been kind to them. The other races had looked at humanity and seen only weakness. They were short-lived, fragile, confined to a single world. The Council had laughed at their crude ships and simple weapons. When the humans asked to join the galactic community, they were rejected. When they asked for trade agreements, they were ignored. When they protested their treatment, they were silenced. And then something happened. The records were unclear, but there had been an incident. Some said the humans had attacked a council ship. Others said they had been defending themselves. Whatever the truth, the council had made a decision. Humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable. Their system was quarantined. A barrier was placed around their star, and they were left alone to die. That was 3,000 years ago. Most species assumed the humans were extinct now. They had probably destroyed themselves in nuclear war or starved when their planet could no longer support them. The galaxy had moved on. But was not so sure. The beacon in his hand was still working. It still pulsed with energy, still transmitted coordinates. Someone had built this device, and they had built it to last. He made his decision in that moment, standing alone in the corridor with nothing but starlight and a desperate hope. The next day, requested a private meeting with Elder. She received him in her personal chambers, surrounded by ancient artifacts from 100 different worlds. "You wish to speak of the humans," she said before he could open his mouth. Her eyes were knowing. "I saw the way you looked during the session. You have the expression of someone about to do something foolish." Place the beacon on the table between them. "This is real. I found it in the deep archives. It still works." Looked at the device but did not touch it. "I remember the humans," she said quietly. "I was young then, barely 1,000 years old. They came to us with open hands and hopeful hearts, and we treated them like animals. Do you think they survived?" The old mediator was silent for a long moment. "I think that species has a talent for survival that we never understood. We thought they would die quietly. We were wrong about many things." "Then help me," said. "Give me a ship, let me find them." Shook her head slowly. "Even if you find them, why would they help us? We abandoned them. We locked them away and forgot they existed. What makes you think they would lift a finger to save any of us?" Picked up the beacon and held it close. "Because I have to believe that somewhere in this galaxy there is still a species that will fight for what is right. Not for power, not for territory, just because it is the right thing to do." Elder studied him for a long time. Then she reached into her robes and pulled out a small data chip. "There is a scout ship in Docking Bay 7, old but reliable. The captain owes me a favor." She pressed the chip into his hand. "Find your humans, ambassador, and pray that the legends are true." Left the station that night. As his small ship slipped into hyperspace, he watched the stars stretch into lines of light around him. He was heading into the unknown, chasing a myth that might not exist. But for the first time in months, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The journey took 3 weeks. Captain, the pilot who owed Elder a favor, spent most of that time complaining about the mission. He was old and tired, and he did not believe in legends. "We are going to find nothing," he said for the 100th time as their ship, the pale light, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. "Just empty rocks and old radiation. This is a waste of—" He stopped talking. His mouth hung open. His hands froze over the controls. Stepped forward and looked through the main window. What he saw made his heart skip. Earth was not dead. Earth was very much alive. The small blue planet hung in the darkness of space, surrounded by rings of metal and light. Massive orbital platforms circled it like protective guardians. Ships moved between stations, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. And beyond the planet, arranged in perfect formation, was a fleet of warships unlike anything had ever seen. "Impossible," whispered. "This is impossible." Before either of them could react, alarms filled the cockpit. Something had locked onto their ship. Multiple somethings. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space." The voice came through their communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction." Looked at with wide eyes. "What do we do?" "We do what they say," replied. He reached over and shut down the engines himself. "We came here to find them. We found them." The next hour was a blur of activity. Human ships surrounded the pale light and guided it toward one of the massive orbital stations. Armed soldiers in strange armor escorted and through metal corridors that hummed with energy. Everything was clean, efficient, and advanced. Finally, they were brought to a large room with a wide window overlooking Earth. 2 humans waited for them there. The first was a man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore a dark uniform covered in medals and insignia. His face was hard, but not cruel. This was someone who had seen many battles and carried the weight of difficult decisions. The second was a woman, younger, with brown hair tied back and an intense gaze. She stood slightly behind the man, watching the visitors with obvious curiosity. "I am Commander Jack Cole," the man said. "This is Lieutenant Kate. You are the first aliens to enter our system in 3,000 years. I hope you have a very good explanation for why you are here." stepped forward and lowered his head in a gesture of respect. "My name is, I am an ambassador of the Federation. I came here because my people are dying and we need your help." Commander Cole did not react. His expression remained stone. "Your people, the same people who voted to quarantine our species, the same galactic community that locked us away and left us to rot." "Yes," said simply. "I will not lie to you. The galaxy treated humanity badly. What was done to your ancestors was wrong. But I am not here to defend the past. I am here because right now, at this very moment, billions of innocent beings are being slaughtered by an empire that knows no mercy." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small holographic projector. With a tap, images filled the air between them. Images of burning cities, of refugee ships being torn apart by weapons fire, of children crying in the ruins of their homes. "The Empire has declared war on anyone who will not bow to them," continued. "They do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They simply destroy everything in their path. The Galactic Council is too afraid to stop them. Other species are hiding, hoping they will pass them by." He looked directly into Commander Cole's eyes. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I am asking anyway. Please, help us." The room was silent. Commander Cole stared at the images floating in the air, his face unreadable. Lieutenant stepped forward. "Commander, may I speak?" Cole nodded slightly. Kate walked closer to the holographic display. She studied the images carefully, her expression growing darker with each scene of destruction. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy decided we were not worth saving," she said quietly. "They looked at our ancestors and saw nothing but primitives, barbarians who would never amount to anything." She turned to face her commander. "But we survived. We grew. We became something they never expected, and now someone is finally asking for our help." "They only ask because they are desperate," Cole replied. "Does that matter?" Kate asked. "Look at these images. Look at what is happening out there. Children are dying. Entire species are being erased from existence. We have the power to stop it. Doesn't that mean we have the responsibility to try?" Commander Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned back to, "I am not the one who makes this decision. Our Admiralty will need to review your request. Our government will need to debate. This is not something that can be decided in an afternoon." "I understand," said, "but the war will not wait for debates." Cole nodded slowly. "No, it never does." He gestured to one of the guards. "Find our guests' quarters, make them comfortable." He looked at one last time. "You came a long way on nothing but hope, Ambassador. I respect that. But hope alone will not be enough to convince humanity to fight another species war." As was led away, he glanced back and saw Lieutenant still standing by the window, staring at the images of destruction. There was something in her eyes, something fierce and determined. Maybe thought, hope was not the only thing he had found here. Over the next several days, was brought before various human leaders. He told his story again and again. He showed them the evidence of atrocities. He answered their questions as honestly as he could. Some of the humans were hostile. They had not forgotten what the galaxy had done to their ancestors. Others were curious, eager to learn about the universe beyond their borders. And a few, like Lieutenant, seemed to feel the same pain felt when they saw innocent beings suffering. Finally, Admiral Ben, the head of Earth's defense fleet, called a meeting. He was an older man with a weathered face and kind eyes. "We have discussed your request," he said. "We are not ready to join your war. We do not know enough about what is happening out there, but we are willing to send observers, a small delegation to see the conflict with their own eyes and report back." Felt a mix of emotions. It was not the help he had hoped for, but it was something. "Thank you," he said. "That is more than I dared to expect." Commander Cole stepped forward. "I will lead the delegation. Lieutenant has volunteered to join me. We will take the frigate Intrepid and a small crew." Admiral nodded. Just observers, nothing more. Do not engage in combat. Do not make promises on behalf of humanity. Watch, learn, and come home." Cole saluted. "Understood, sir." As they prepared to leave, Kate approached with a small smile. "You took a big risk coming here," she said. "Why?" Thought about the question. Because sometimes the only chance you have is the one that seems impossible. And because I believe that good beings will do the right thing when they see what is happening. Kate looked out the window at the stars. "I hope you are right, I really do." The Intrepid launched the next morning, carrying a crew of 40 humans into the unknown. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity was returning to the galaxy. And nothing would ever be the same. The Intrepid was a small ship by human standards, but it moved through space like a ghost. Commander Jack Cole stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by as they traveled deeper into territory. Behind him, Lieutenant Kate studied tactical displays showing the latest reports from the front lines. "It is worse than we thought," she said quietly. "They have taken another 6 systems since we left Earth. They are losing ground everywhere." Cole nodded but said nothing. They had been traveling for 2 weeks, and each day brought news of fresh horrors. They did not fight like other species. They did not want territory or resources. They wanted complete surrender, total submission, and anyone who resisted was simply erased. Ambassador had stayed on Earth to continue diplomatic efforts, but Captain had joined them as a guide. The old pilot knew these regions well, and his knowledge had kept them away from patrols. "We are approaching the Helix Nebula," announced from his station. "The flagship Ascendant Hope is stationed there. What remains of our main fleet is trying to hold the line." The Intrepid dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the nebula. What they saw made Cole's stomach turn. Debris floated everywhere. Broken ships, some still burning, drifted through the colorful clouds of gas. Emergency beacons flashed in the darkness, calling for help that would never come. And in the distance, the massive form of the Ascendant Hope hung in space, surrounded by the battered remnants of the fleet. "My God," Kate whispered. Cole straightened his shoulders. "Take us in, slow approach. Let them see we are not hostile." They welcomed them aboard the flagship with tired gratitude. Their admiral, a veteran named, met them in the war room. His blue skin was pale, and his eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much death. "You are the humans," he said, studying Cole and Kate with wonder. "I did not believe it when sent word. I thought he had lost his mind." "We are just observers," Cole reminded him. "We are here to watch and report back, nothing more." Admiral laughed bitterly. "Then observe well, Commander. Watch as my people are butchered. Watch as everything we have built is burned to ash. And when you return to your hidden world, tell them what you saw. Tell them that the galaxy died while they did nothing." The words stung, but Cole kept his face calm. "Show us." Over the next several days, the humans watched the war unfold. They saw soldiers fight with incredible bravery against impossible odds. They saw medical ships struggling to save the wounded while fighters hunted them like prey. They saw refugee convoys fleeing from destroyed worlds, only to be attacked in the empty spaces between stars. Kate spent her nights reviewing footage from the front lines. She could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the faces of the dying. Children reaching for parents who were already gone. Entire families burning in the wreckage of their homes. "How can they do this?" she asked Cole one night, her voice breaking. "How can any species be this cruel?" Cole sat beside her and looked at the screen. "I do not know. Some beings are just broken inside. They only understand power and pain." "We could stop them," Kate said. "Our weapons, our technology. We have spent 3,000 years preparing for threats. This is exactly what we prepared for." "We are under orders," Cole replied. "We observe, we report, we do not engage." Kate turned to face him, her eyes burning with emotion. "And if following orders means watching innocent beings die when we could save them, what does that make us?" Cole had no answer. 3 days later, they received a distress signal. A medical station on the edge of the nebula was under attack. 12 warships had surrounded it and were systematically destroying its defenses. "There are 3,000 wounded on that station," reported, his voice shaking, "and 200 medical staff. They have no weapons, they cannot fight back." The Intrepid hung in the shadows of an asteroid field, watching from a safe distance. On the bridge, the crew stood frozen, listening to the screams coming through the communication channels. Pleas for help, prayers to gods who were not listening. And then, one by one, silence. Kate stood at her station, her hands clenched into fists. Tears ran down her face, but her jaw was set with determination. "Commander," she said, "we have to do something." Cole stared at the screen. He saw the ships firing into the helpless station. He saw explosions ripping through medical bays full of wounded soldiers. He saw escape pods being shot down as they tried to flee. He thought about his orders. He thought about his duty. He thought about what it meant to be human. And then he made his choice. "All hands to battle stations," he said quietly. "Power up weapons, drop the cloak." The bridge erupted in activity. Nobody questioned the order. They had all been watching. They had all seen enough. The Intrepid emerged from the asteroid field like a phantom. Its hull was dark and angular, designed to absorb sensors and avoid detection. But now every system was active. Every weapon was charged. They did not see them coming until it was too late. The first shot from the Intrepid was a beam of pure white energy that cut through a cruiser like a knife through paper. The ship split in half and exploded in a ball of fire. Before the other could react, the Intrepid was among them, moving with impossible speed and precision. Its weapons fired in rapid succession. Shields that should have been impenetrable collapsed under the assault. Armor that had never been breached was torn apart like cloth. Kate stood at the tactical station, coordinating the attack with cold efficiency. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver was perfect. In 6 minutes, 12 warships were destroyed. The medical station was saved. And across the galactic network, sensors recorded everything. The Ascendant Hope received the footage first. Admiral watched in stunned silence as a single human frigate dismantled an entire squadron. He had never seen anything like it. Nobody had. "What are they?" one of his officers whispered. Shook his head slowly. "They are exactly what the legends said, and may the stars help anyone who stands against them." The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species, from the greatest empires to the smallest colonies, saw what humanity had become. They saw the weapons that understanding, the tactics that seemed to predict every enemy move, the absolute refusal to stand by and watch innocent beings die. The High Command saw it too. High Commander watched the recording in his throne room, his burning eyes fixed on the screen. His advisors waited in terrified silence. "Find them," he said finally, his voice like grinding stone. "Find out everything about this species, and prepare our fleets. If the humans want a war, we will give them one they will never forget." On the Intrepid, Commander Cole stood alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars. He had broken his orders. He had involved humanity in a war they had chosen to avoid. He might face court-martial when he returned home. His career might be over. But then he thought about the 3,000 beings on that medical station. The doctors and nurses who had been given another day to save lives. The wounded soldiers who would see their families again. He had done the right thing, he was sure of it. A soft knock came at his door. Kate entered, looking tired but determined. "They are calling us heroes out there," she said. The other species. They think we have come to save them." "Have we?" Kate smiled slightly. "I think we just took the first step. The rest is up to Earth." Cole nodded. "Send a message home. Tell them what happened. Tell them what we saw. And tell them that the galaxy needs us whether we like it or not." The message was sent that night. It traveled across the void of space, carrying with it the weight of everything the humans had witnessed. And on Earth, the leaders who received it began to understand that staying hidden was no longer an option. The legend had awakened, and nothing could put it back to sleep. The message from the Intrepid arrived on Earth like a thunderbolt. Within hours, every news channel was broadcasting the footage. Citizens gathered in public squares to watch. Families huddled around screens in their homes, and in the halls of power, leaders debated what it all meant. Admiral Ben stood before the United Earth Parliament, his weathered face showing the weight of the moment. Around him, representatives from every nation and territory on the planet waited in tense silence. "You have all seen the footage," began. "Commander Cole and his crew engaged forces to save a medical station. They won, but they also revealed our existence to the galaxy in a way that cannot be undone." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some voices were angry, others were frightened. A few seemed almost excited. "We have a choice to make," continued. "We can recall our people, close our borders, and hope the galaxy forgets about us again. Or we can accept that the time for hiding is over. They know we exist now. They know what we can do, and based on everything we have learned about them, they will not simply leave us alone." A representative from the European Federation stood up. "Are you suggesting we go to war, a war that is not ours to fight?" "I am suggesting that it may become our war whether we want it or not," replied. "The do not forgive. They do not forget. Commander Cole destroyed 12 of their ships. They will want revenge." The debate raged for hours. Old arguments resurfaced. The galaxy had abandoned humanity once. Why should humanity help them now? They had spent 3,000 years building their strength in isolation. Why risk it all for species that had treated their ancestors like animals? But then Commander Jack Cole appeared on the screen, broadcasting live from the Intrepid. His face was tired, but his eyes were clear and steady. "I know what I did was against orders," he said. "I accept full responsibility. If you want to court-martial me when I return, I will not resist. But before you make any decisions, let me tell you what I saw out here." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I saw doctors working without sleep for days, trying to save wounded soldiers who would probably die anyway. I saw children crying in refugee ships, asking why their homes were gone. I saw an entire civilization being slowly erased by an enemy that feels nothing but contempt for life." His voice grew stronger. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy looked at us and decided we were worthless. They locked us away and forgot we existed. And yes, that was wrong. It was cruel. We have every right to be angry about it. But I met beings out here who are nothing like the ones who hurt our ancestors. I met people who are fighting and dying for their families, their homes, their future. They are not so different from us." He leaned closer to the camera. "We have the power to help them. We have weapons that can turn the tide of this war. We have ships that can stand against anything they throw at us. The question is simple. Do we use that power? Or do we sit in our safe little corner of the galaxy and watch while billions of innocent beings are slaughtered?" Kate stepped into the frame beside him. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hair disheveled, but her voice was strong. "I used to think humanity owed nothing to the galaxy," she said. "I used to believe we should stay hidden forever. But then I watched that medical station burn. I heard the screams of beings who had never done anything wrong, who were just trying to heal the wounded and save lives. And I realized something." She took a deep breath. "If we have the power to stop evil and we choose not to use it, then we are no better than the ones who abandoned us. We become exactly what they thought we were: small, selfish, worthless." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. "I believe we are better than that. I believe humanity has something to offer this galaxy. Not conquest, not domination, just the simple idea that the strong should protect the weak, that good beings should stand together against evil, that nobody should have to face the darkness alone. The transmission ended. The chamber was silent. Then slowly, a representative from the Asian coalition stood up. "I vote yes," she said simply. "We help them." One by one, others rose to their feet. The vote was not unanimous. There were still voices of opposition, still fears and doubts. But when the final count came, the decision was clear. Humanity would enter the war. News of the decision spread across the galaxy faster than light. On worlds, crowds gathered to celebrate. On stations and ships, survivors of attacks wept with relief. Even species that had remained neutral began to reconsider their positions. Ambassador, still on Earth, received the news in his guest quarters. He sat down slowly, unable to believe what he was hearing. The impossible had happened. The legend had come true. But far across the galaxy, High Commander was also receiving news. His scouts had been watching. His spies had been listening. He knew that human ships would soon be coming. And he was ready. Stood in the command center of his dreadnought, the Obsidian Throne, surrounded by his most trusted officers. Holographic maps showed the entire war zone, marking every fleet movement, every supply line, every potential ambush point. "The humans are arrogant," he said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "They won one small battle and they think they can challenge us. They know nothing of true war." He pointed to a narrow passage of space between the and territories. The passage. It was the only direct route between the two regions, and any attacking fleet would have to pass through it. "We will let them come," continued. "We will let them think they are winning. And when they enter the passage, we will spring the trap. 200 of our finest warships, hidden and waiting. We will destroy them in a single blow and break the spirit of this new alliance before it can grow." His officers nodded in approval. The plan was sound. The humans were powerful, but they were few. One fleet, no matter how advanced, could not stand against such overwhelming numbers. Back on Earth, the first human battle group was assembling. Admiral had personally taken command, leaving his comfortable office behind to lead from the front. His flagship, the carrier Resolute, was the largest vessel humanity had ever built. Around it gathered 30 warships of various sizes, all crewed by volunteers who understood they might not come home. Commander Cole and the Intrepid joined the fleet as it prepared to depart. Kate had been promoted to commander and given her own ship, the frigate Vanguard. It was smaller than the Intrepid, but just as deadly. Before they left, called a meeting of all ship captains aboard the Resolute. They gathered in the main briefing room, a diverse group of men and women from every corner of Earth. "You all know what we are facing," said. "They have been fighting wars for thousands of years. They have more ships, more soldiers, more experience. On paper, we should not be able to beat them." He smiled slightly. "But we are not fighting on paper. We are fighting with weapons they have never seen, tactics they cannot predict, and something they will never understand." He looked around the room, meeting each captain's eyes. "We are fighting because we chose to, not because anyone forced us, not because we had no other option. We saw beings suffering and we decided to help. That is what makes us different. That is what makes us human." He raised his hand in salute. "May God watch over us all, and may we prove worthy of the trust the galaxy has placed in us." The fleet launched the next morning. 30 human ships, carrying thousands of soldiers and sailors, heading into the unknown. Behind them, Earth watched with hope and fear. The war was about to change forever. And somewhere in the darkness of the passage, 200 warships waited in silence, their weapons charged and their commanders eager for blood. The trap was set. All that remained was to see who would survive it. The passage was a narrow corridor of space, barely wide enough for a fleet to travel through without becoming scattered. Ancient nebulae blocked the sides, making it impossible to go around. Any ship entering the passage had only two choices, forward or backward. Admiral knew it was a trap. His tactical officers had analyzed the terrain. His scouts had detected faint energy signatures hiding in the nebula. Everything pointed to an ambush. But he also knew there was no other way. They were dying. Every day of delay cost thousands of lives. The human fleet had to break through, whatever the cost. "All ships, this is the Admiral," spoke into the fleet-wide channel. His voice was calm and steady. "We are about to enter the passage. Intel suggests they are waiting for us. We estimate between 150 and 200 enemy vessels." A murmur passed through the ships. Those were terrible odds, nearly 7-1 against them. Continued, "I will not lie to you. Some of us will not survive this day, but I want you to remember something. We are not here because we were ordered to be. We are here because we chose to be. We saw innocent beings suffering and we decided to help. That choice matters. It matters more than numbers or odds or fear." On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Kate listened with her crew. She thought about everything that had led to this moment. The stories of her ancestors, the long years of isolation, the desperate plea from Ambassador, the screams of the dying on that medical station. She was afraid, but she was also ready. "All hands," she said to her own crew, "battle stations. Whatever happens today, we make them remember us." The human fleet entered the passage in tight formation. The Resolute led the way, its massive bulk absorbing the darkness ahead. Around it, frigates and destroyers formed protective screens. Behind them came the support vessels and the medical ships that everyone hoped would not be needed. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The passage was silent, empty. The nebula pressed in from both sides, glowing with soft colors that seemed almost peaceful. Then the darkness exploded. 200 warships simultaneously, surrounding the human fleet on all sides. They emerged from the nebula like predators lunging from shadow, their weapons already charging. At the center of their formation, the massive dreadnought Obsidian Throne loomed like a mountain of death. High Commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Humans, you have entered space. You have interfered in affairs. Your punishment is death. Surrender now and I will make your end quick. Resist and you will beg for mercy that will never come." On the Resolute, Admiral looked at the tactical display. Red icons everywhere. His 30 ships were completely surrounded. The logical thing to do would be to surrender, to save as many lives as possible, to live to fight another day. But had not come here to be logical. "High Commander," he replied, his voice ringing with defiance, "my name is Ben, Admiral of the United Earth Fleet. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy locked my people away because they thought we were weak. They were wrong. You think you can frighten us with your numbers. You think we will kneel before you. Let me tell you something about humanity." He leaned forward. "We do not kneel." The battle began. Human weapons fired in coordinated bursts, cutting through shields like they were made of paper. The energy beams that had destroyed the squadron at the medical station now filled space with deadly light. Ships exploded. Fire bloomed in the void. But they were not helpless. They returned fire with everything they had. The human shields held, but under such overwhelming assault, even the best defenses began to crack. Ships took damage. Crews died at their stations. The Resolute pushed forward, its main guns blazing. It destroyed 3 cruisers in rapid succession, but more took their place. The enemy had numbers, endless numbers. Commander Cole and the Intrepid danced through the chaos, striking at enemy flanks and disappearing before retaliation could find them. Every shot counted. Every maneuver saved lives. But even Cole knew they could not keep this up forever. On the Vanguard, Kate saw the opening she was looking for. The center formation was clustered too tightly around the Obsidian Throne. If someone could break through, could scatter their command ships, the entire enemy fleet would lose coordination. It would be a suicide mission. Nobody could survive flying directly into that wall of firepower. Kate made her decision in a heartbeat. "All hands," she announced. "This is Commander. We are about to do something very stupid. I am ordering all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Get out now." Her crew looked at her with understanding. Nobody argued. Nobody ran. They stayed at their posts. "Ma'am," her first officer said quietly, "we are with you, all of us." Kate felt tears in her eyes, but she blinked them away. There was no time for tears. "Then let's show them what humans are made of. All power to engines. Maximum acceleration. We are going straight through." The Vanguard shot forward like an arrow. It dodged and weaved through enemy fire, its shields flaring with every impact. Behind it, other human ships saw what was happening and moved to support. They formed a wedge, protecting the Vanguard as it drove deeper and deeper into the formation. Saw them coming. He ordered every ship in range to stop them, but the humans would not stop. Even as their ships took critical damage, even as sections exploded and fires raged, they kept coming. The Vanguard reached the center and did something nobody expected. Instead of firing its weapons, it activated its emergency thrusters and rammed directly into the side of a command cruiser. The impact shattered both ships, creating a massive explosion that tore a hole in the enemy formation. But Kate had already abandoned ship. She and her surviving crew had launched in escape pods just seconds before impact, trusting that someone would pick them up, trusting that their sacrifice would mean something. It did. The formation broke apart. Their commanders, panicking at the loss of their central coordination, began issuing conflicting orders. Ships collided with each other. Defensive lines crumbled. Admiral saw the opportunity and seized it. "All ships push forward. Maximum firepower, break them." The human fleet surged through the gap Kate had created. Their weapons tore into the confused forces. Ships that had been invincible moments ago now burned in the void. Commander Cole and the Intrepid led the charge toward the Obsidian throne. Its flagship was damaged but still fighting. Its weapons carved destruction through space, but Cole had studied this ship. He knew its weaknesses. The Intrepid struck at the Obsidian throne's engine section with surgical precision. The first shot disabled its main thrusters. The second crippled its shields. The third tore through its command deck. The battle lasted 9 hours. When it finally ended, 167 warships had been destroyed. The Obsidian throne drifted dead in space, its crew captured or killed. High Commander was found alive in his command chair, his scales blackened by fire, his eyes filled with disbelief. The human losses were severe. 11 ships destroyed, hundreds dead. The Vanguard was gone, though Kate and most of her crew had been rescued. But they had won. In the aftermath, was brought before Commander Cole in the brig of the Intrepid. The once mighty commander was bound in chains, his power broken, his empire beginning to crumble. "What are you?" asked, his voice hoarse. "No species has ever defeated us like this. No weapon has ever hurt us so badly. What are you?" Cole looked at him for a long moment. "We are what you made us," he said quietly. 3,000 years ago, the galaxy called us primitive, weak, worthless. They locked us away and forgot about us. And we spent every single day since then growing stronger, learning, preparing for the moment when someone would try to hurt us or the people we cared about." He leaned closer to the defeated commander. "You wanted to know what humanity is. We are the species that never gives up, never surrenders, never stops fighting for what is right. And now the whole galaxy knows it." Had no response. He simply stared at the floor, broken in body and spirit. The war was not over. The Empire still had forces elsewhere. Other battles would need to be fought. But the tide had turned forever. The great enemy had been broken. And across the galaxy, oppressed species began to rise up, inspired by the humans who had shown them that even the mightiest tyrants could fall. Kate stood on the bridge of a borrowed ship, looking out at the Allied fleet that had gathered after the battle. Humans and representatives from a dozen other species floated side by side, united in victory. A young officer approached her with wonder in his eyes. "Commander," he said, "what does humanity plan to do now? They are weakened. The galaxy is watching. What comes next?" Kate looked at the stars stretching endlessly before her. She thought about everything they had been through, everything they had sacrificed, everything they had proven. She smiled. "Whatever it takes," she said. "Whatever it takes to make sure nobody has to face the darkness alone ever again." And somewhere on Earth, children gathered around screens to watch the footage of the battle. They saw human ships fighting against impossible odds. They saw heroes rising from the flames of sacrifice. They saw their species take its place among the stars. The legend was no longer a legend. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget.